for $10, what are some games that you hope to one day play on Talking Sim?
Wow. Actually, that might be one.
Yeah.
When Vanilla WoW comes out, that might actually be worth looking at and talking again about the nostalgia mode, which is part of, God, I want to say it's Barth's essay on postmodernism. He talks a lot about nostalgia and the nostalgia mode and the way things, the way stories operate in it. And he specifically cites Star Wars as being one. So that would be like a good way of getting a grip on that, that entire process. Other games that I want to examine on Talking Sim, I would love to go through and play the other Dark Souls games on Talking Sim, because then we can talk a bit about how sequels work and what you do when you want to tell another story set with the same themes in the same world as what is nominally a closed story, right?
Make it bigger and more actiony, right?
Well, yeah, and then you have to find like other story hooks, right? Because, you know, Dark Souls 1, you either kindle the bonfire or you extinguish it. Period. Right? Like, new story done, right? Themes examined, story concluded. But it was really good and people liked it, and we have a new engine, so let's make a second one and a third one. Because there's all kinds of neat little story hooks that we left kind of seeded around that universe that we didn't examine because they were just kind of like interesting texture, but now you need to actually like pull that texture out and see what it's actually made out of. I need to actually like, one of the things that I also keep talking about on Talking Simulator is playing the new hotness, because we should be taking the one of the themes that I keep coming back to on Talking Simulator is examining your defaults, right? What are the things that you don't see because they're just kind of integrated into the things that you do every day? What do you take for granted, right? What are the processes that you have trained yourself out of seeing anymore? Somebody I really like describe this process as explaining wet to a fish, right?
Right.
What is deeply a part of your environment? So when Alex and I played PUBG on Talking Sim, we examined like, what are the things that you just assume that a character can do in a video game, right? What's a core component of the fun in a battle royale game? Because like the book, or the light novel, the movie, the entire idea of battle royale was that these people were hideously unsuited to being dumped on an island and told to kill one another. But that sucks as a video game,
Right?
right? Like that's just not a good gameplay experience unless you make your entire gameplay experience being about being a teenager who sucks and is trying to hide from the previous winners.
It's very difficult to make a video game about the psychological choice to kill.
Yeah, right? Because whatever, you click on the the head
And it goes
and then
away.
you win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I wanted to say this is something that VR is really struggling with. Is that the default assumptions in video games are default movement is the big one in VR. How do you move
Right.
the way that you would expect to in a video game? Because you can see it's not reality enough to be virtual. So you expect video game logic. Well, how am I moving? Because we've been trained that movement is on a two-dimensional plane right now.
Right.
And that is done in real time by pushing in a direction.
Right. So kind of like the holodeck problem in TNG, right? Like how do you run? How do you jump? Right?
And so those are technical questions because in the holodeck they've decided that they're just going to use the physical world as your interaction system. You interact with the holodeck in the same way you interact with other things.
Right. The holodeck will hand wave away any questions you have about how the holodeck works. What else do I really want to look at in Talking Simulator? I mean, considering how much I play it, I should probably look at Destiny 2 on Talking Sim, just because it occupies so much of my time, and if examining our defaults is important to us, then we should probably look at it and why I enjoy playing it. Because it's not the new hotness by any stretch of the imagination. It's a game that people are like, oh yeah, right, I remember that. You still play that? Really? People watch you play that? Huh. Well, okay then. And I'm like, it's fun, right? I guess I'm invested in it. Maybe I can look at a sunk cost fallacy. I don't know. But what I really like about that game is the way that there's another story going on underneath Destiny 2, which is told through its lore tabs, which you have no interaction with whatsoever, right? There's a really interesting story being told behind Destiny 2 that you kind of get to look at every once in a while you're clicking on monsters. And that's kind of interesting, I suppose. So that's my list right now.
Okay.
I think.
Cool. Destiny 2 was a weird one for me because like I played it quite a lot when it first came out. Played with you some.
Yeah.
And like I like it. I like that game. It's a good game. Like it is a good
is.
game. It was
It is.
different from Destiny 1, but it was different in like there were, a lot of quality of life improvements, and it made some choices that I didn't like, and it made some choices that I did like. But I played through it. I played through much of the content that came out during year one. But I think I fell off it. Like I have I keep pretty busy, and I have a pretty big game backlog, and I fell off it just because it was like, I don't really have the time to commit, and I had split my time between the PS4 and PC versions of it, so it was like, all right, I'm giving up on the PC version, I'm not buying the X-Pack for it. And then I played through the X-Pack on the PS4, and then, all right, cool, well, I'm done with that, I'll go play something else, and I just never went back to it. So I missed Warmind.
Right.
But then I did pick up the new Season 2 renovation of it, and was like, all right, cool. I got Season 2. And I got it for PS4 because I was further along on the PS4, and I jumped back into it like, all right, let's spin this up and see what they've done that's new. And I booted the game up, and I got to the launcher, or to the like landing screen where you're just in the Cosmos map.
Oh, right.
And there were icons everywhere. And I was like, oh no, what have I done?
Right.
And I went to the last city, and I checked in with the quest givers, and there were so many things, like there were engrams and so many things, and I spent 15 or 20 minutes like clearing out the backlog of junk that had accrued.
Yeah.
And at that point it was like 15 minutes until bedtime, and I was just like, I can't really do a quest right now. I'll put this stuff in the bank and call it a night.
Right.
And then I went back to it another day, and I did the first quest of Warmind, and I was like, I'm ready for like a quick, 10 minutes. Let's go fight some monsters.
Right.
And 45 minutes later, I finally finished and was like, maybe I'm just done with Destiny.
Yeah, no, that's entirely fair. Like, it's that I think Forsaken, I've been told Forsaken is the best that game series has ever been. But there's a lot if you haven't been there for a little while, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's just a mountain of stuff that it throws at you right away.
Yeah, like I just felt like I hit a wall. I booted it up and hit a wall of just stuff, like intimidating level of stuff to do.
Well,
and it's not like I don't know that game well, but there's nothing to ease you back into it if you're if you're a lapsed player. And like that's one of the things, like working in mobile, it's one of the things that we think about it like heavily is like, well, players, you want to get players in their first 30 days, and you're trying to retain them for 30 days so that they stick around, because if you do, they will stick around much like they have much higher probability of sticking around longer.
That's why I'm still reading questionable content now.
Right.
Right.
And you think about the hooks that'll keep people around, and then if you're like trying to build your user base periodically, you want to re-engage the users, but it's not always enough to just be like, hey, come back, we got this new thing.
Right.
You need to show them how to do the new thing.
Well, like, I finished the main storyline in Forsaken, and I got 3 quests from Banshee 44, who's the tower weaponsmith. And I'm like, I have no idea what any of these do.
Yeah.
Right? One of them is for the legendary hand cannon, right? Cade's hand cannon, the story hand cannon, and the other two are for PvP weapons. And I had to figure that out.
Yeah.
Right?
Because, let's like, what does this new currency do? I've never seen this before. Oh, hey, there are these different engrams around. I don't know what those are.
Yeah.
What are those for?
And it couldn't help you if you accidentally use one in the wrong way, and now you're a good 3 hours behind in your progression.
Yep. There's the whole like, oh, all these different icons in different places. Well, I remember that the icons in places meant that there were things I needed to pick up. Oh, wait, no, that's a quest icon. Oh, these are different quests than the quests I'm used to. What are these quests? How do I tell these quests from these other quests that have a different icon? What do they mean? Why can't I go to this one? Can I go to this one? Oh, all the story quests that I want to do are locked off by level because I'm actually 4 levels below the level cap required to actually play the content that I just paid money to play.
Well, like, and the overload is something that actually surprised me a bit because, like, I played World of Warcraft for a long time, so I'm very used to the idea of like, well, I finished off Duskwood, and now I'm going to go to the next zone, follow the breadcrumb, get off the Griffin or the Manticore, and there's like 45 people with exclamation points above their heads, and that's normal, right? You just talk to them, get your quests, and then go off and do the quests, and you come back, and it doesn't feel overwhelming at all. But for some reason, in some other games, like it would be like if they had various different colored punctuation instead of question marks. I don't know
if
what
it was
is.
like 5 different colors of exclamation mark, and then they added a 6th after you had been away for a year.
Right.
And you're just like, what? What does that do? Why is that a different color? But even WoW, this is one of the things that's going to come back from Vanilla WoW, like Vanilla or WoW Classic releases, depending on how much of the quality of life stuff they bring across.
Right.
That's going to be the interesting thing. How classic is WoW Classic actually going to be?
The rumor I had heard was that it was going to be the version of WoW just before Burning Crusade launched.
With none of the
no
lessons
Burning Crusade,
learned.
but,
okay.
Well, it's going to be 1.13 or whatever that was.
Yeah.
So I can play my old Elementalist mage that had like 30 points in was it 30 points in frost, 21 in fire. So you could like freeze things and then hit them with a pyroclasm.
Right.
And then just get enormous crits. It wasn't good, but it was sweet.
Yeah. I mean, like that's interesting because it's like I had sort of been. It's one of those things where I like, Graham, you all made a crap shot about Vanilla WoW,
which James wrote in my defense,
and it was really funny. I laughed. I don't know how you make that decision. I mean, there's obviously a market demand for it, and I guess the obvious decision is to go with what the core fan base wants, is to just release the last version before Burning Crusade came out with no quality of life improvement or anything. But they've learned so many lessons since then. They've done so many things. There's so many quality of life improvements they've added to the game. Thinking of the breadcrumb, it's not just like, I go through this zone and then I'm done this zone and now I go to the next zone. It's like, I complete this zone and a new quest pops and it tells me to go back to town. And in town, there's a quest giver who's like, hey, so thanks for doing the Duskwood, but now this other zone over here is in trouble, and we need to send you over there.
Right, yeah,
and you take the quest, and then you
right?
get, none of that existed.
Right.
You had to just find your way through it, or stumble through it and hope for the best. And you finish Duskwood, and you walk into the next zone, and are immediately mauled by a bear, and have to walk back to your corpse.
Right. Because I remember playing in Loch Modan, and accidentally stumbling into...
like Badlands?
Yeah, Badlands, and just getting stomped by a skull Misa buzzard, right? It was just like, what happened? Everything turned like, the ground lit, like it was like walking off the carpet.
Yeah. It's like, I'm here in this nice green meadow. Oh, interesting. That ground's red. Why is that ground red? Walk on the red ground and immediately die to a vulture.
Yeah. That chased, like you're like, you can see it coming, right? Because you're so low level that it
like
aggroes from across the map.
Yeah.
It's so weird hearing you guys talk about Destiny from the perspective of a Destiny 1 player, when always the problem since day one of the first game has been there's not enough to do.
Yeah.
And so hearing, I'm overwhelmed is like, good, great.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. What
that's-
you saw is
I'll
why so
take
many
it.
people
I'll
were
take it,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Thank Bus for that.
It's a different kind of
I know-
being overwhelmed,
I
though,
know what you
right?
mean.
Like it's not that I
Also,
think
I'd say
there's.
Taken King was the best this series has ever been.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Taken
No,
King was
fair.
rad.
Yeah.
I tend to agree with that. It's not an overwhelming of like, oh, there's too much to do. There's a little bit of like, oh, this game wants to be my job, but I have a job. But it's not that. It's the like psychological overload of coming into the game and just being presented with like, well, here's 6 icons on every planet.
Yeah.
The end. That's welcome to the new expansion pack that we've just released. Here's 6 icons on every planet. Figure it out.
And once you
I
get
mean,
used to that,
so-
it's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah.
Like, you see that every week.
Yeah.
It's just like, yes, I have
Yeah,
so much
yeah.
to do now.
Each of those icons has a suggested power level
Yes.
when you hover over it.
But
And
you
so
have to go
can-
hunting for that information. Like it's
Yeah, but
show
you
me
can-
the ones that I can do.
Yeah, that's
Even
fair.
that would filter it and ease me, like ramp me into it. right?
Generally speaking, campaign first.
Yes, and like I figured it out. I spent
Yeah.
enough time that I was like, oh, okay, I'm familiar with the UI and whatever, and I was able to puzzle through it. But even just that filter of like, don't show me stuff I can't do yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
Speaking of like TTK versus Forsaken, I went back and watched all the cinematic trailers for like The Taken King.
Yeah.
And like that looked amazing from like launch, right?
Yeah.
It's like a hive god is attacking our solar system, and this is like, well, I don't think we're gonna make it, right? Like this is a big deal. This is the end coming. And Forsaken is like, somebody's poisoning the watering hole, right? And that's kind of its hook. Like there's a jailbreak and you have to go and deal with
Yeah.
it. And it didn't feel as epic, but Forsaken's story goes like wild,
Yeah.
Yeah,
right? Like it's super cool.
Story-wise, it's sort of like I guess story-wise is maybe a little more subjective, but I guess like mechanics-wise, Taken King was that was like the last. The Taken King was when they finally figured out Destiny 1. Right?
Okay,
It's
right.
like
Yeah.
we've
Yeah.
here's all the quality of life improvements. We've solved the problems. Everything works now.
Okay.
Which is why when Destiny 2 launched and was missing a bunch of that stuff,
Right.
everybody was like, "What the bus?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
What? But why don't we have this?" I can't think of a specific example offhand, but it's like, why don't we have this? We just had that. Now it's gone.
Because
Right.
it's
You
a
know?
new game engine and they had to build everything from the ground up.
Is what they said they were going to do, and then they just built it all in the same engine.
Oh,
Because
Well-
they did the same thing they did with the first game, which is rebuild everything from scratch 14 months before launch. It's absolutely ludicrous. Bungo, please.
please just
think the-
make the game.
The thing worth saying here is like, as many comments as we have about things that we want Destiny 2 to do better, it's still a pretty damn good video game. I
Yeah,
think
no,
at least
like,
three
yeah.
people
I've-
here
I've
That's
been-
the
love
thing.
playing it.
Whatever department at Bungie is responsible for and I've said this from the very beginning of Destiny 1, whatever department is responsible for the core gameplay mechanics, the running, jumping, shooting,
The
kudos
gameplay
to
department.
them, because it feels so good to play.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if it didn't, it would have cratered so much harder because all the extraneous stuff is maddening. But the fact that it still feels fun to get the guns and shoot the aliens and make the heads go pop
Yeah.
means that you keep playing it.
Yeah.
Right.
So thank goodness they have those people.
Like,
Yeah, I mean-
I'm doing the PvP weapon quests, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm on my last step of Red Rex's broadsword, and I'm like 3 or 4 steps into Luna's Howl. And I'm doing that because like I actually started PvPing, and it was good, right? Like it,
Yeah, like it's not an unfun game
No.
by any
No.
stretch. And so it's
Except
like
Warlock jump lol.
you know what? I think I'm just gonna float lazily through the air in this combat. Oh, somebody shot me in my face.
who could have predicted that?
Yeah.
Geeky Quilter, I did not because they left. They ran out of pins and left. We got back there and they were gone. So I gave mine to Beach. So thank you for that. Oh yeah, gorgeous skyboxes. Especially when you clip through a wall and get to see the whole skybox. There are. I mean, so, personal habit in video games is trying to get outside,
Yes.
right? Like to go out of bounds.
Find the sub-ocean.
Destiny, just the way they build their maps is particularly abusive for that. Just that you can get outside really easily and interestingly.
Right.
And they've patched lots of bugs and ways to let you get out of bounds. Destiny 2, Foxmar was like, we were on Nessus. I think it was Nessus? Nessus or Io? No, it was Nessus. And he would, no, wait, Io. It was Io. He's like, hey, follow me for a sec. And I just follow him. And he's like, okay, jump up here. Yeah. Okay, now jump up there. Yeah. Now, walk outside the map. There's just open holes on Io where you can just wander and be like, oh, here's the back of the geometry.
Yeah, like,
Whoops! And you just fall off.
I remember him showing me one of those in Nessus where you jump off onto like this ledge, and there's just no wall.
Yeah.
Right? So you're just like, oh, okay.
I have become a lot more forgiving of those particular things, having now worked on this button.
Yeah, I bet.
It took a full day of me going back and forth between my office and the printer trying to get holes printed, because the holes would show up in the model on the computer visually, but not physically.
Well, hey, Chiller of Hell, welcome. Thanks for watching Friday Nights. Hopefully you enjoyed Desert Bus.
Like Nessus in particular felt like I don't do hypotheticals, but I imagine in my head that Nessus was the product of a meeting where people were like, how are the Nessus maps coming? And they're like, they're awesome, right? Like they're hyper detailed. It's a really cool environment. It's enormous, and they're like, awesome. We need them Monday.
I've been in that meeting.
Yeah.
They have to be ready Monday.
Yeah,
It's like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, your deadline 6 months ago was set for Monday.
Yeah. That was 6 months. And like, I understand from both business reasons, like you say, and for, engine reasons, like you say. I totally understand why. But, it is sort of like, this isn't even like a thing that I've done. This isn't like a glitch. I haven't rammed my Sparrow into the thing or what. I'm just walking. There's just a hole, and I'm walking through it, and now I'm jumping around the outside of the map.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, well, and they haven't fixed that either.
No.
By the way, those are there since the beginning.
Well, like there were a couple of items that you could only get in a strike that was taken out of the game because it had a bad boss fight at the end, and
Right.
everyone hated it. But you could still get into the strike. You just need to jump around the outside and then over the gate, and then you were in it.
Yep.
There were no monsters inside, but all the stuff was still there.
The
Somewhere,
stuff was still there. Just go
Yeah,
around
it
and
would be
collect
like
the
if
chests.
you could, like in WoW, if you could just get into like Strathhome
Yeah.
just by like walking in. Right?
somewhere on my PS4, I have video recordings of myself and Foxmar and Ben Swallow in the Summoning Pits strike from Destiny 1.
Right.
Where I did the Sparrow trick, which before they fixed it in Destiny 1, where it's you stand beside a wall and you summon your Sparrow while holding accelerator and you just go boop through it. Where we're doing the strike and they go the whole way down the strike and I follow them outside. Because if you're outside the geometry but you still get to where the load trigger is, it'll still load the next zone.
Right.
And you will load outside the map still.
Wow.
So we went the whole way down to the summoning pits. They did the fight, and I'm just like, well, I can't shoot anything because there's a wall in the way. But it's the whole way down. It was really goofy.
Yeah.
So I
And,
jumped
like-
into Destiny with the Taken King, so I missed year one.
Right.
Can you explain what the loot cave was to me?
Oh, the loot cave. So in the Cosmodrome, so like the first patrol zone in the game, there was this cave where a bunch of hive enemies would spawn in and come out, and the way that spawns worked is that like certain enemies would be in groups, and so you'd have like this group of 4 they'll roughly be in these 4 positions, and when you kill all 4 of them, if you are a certain distance away from that area, then they'll spawn again in this cave and come out and then come back and take up their positions.
Okay.
And so there was an area where you could stand that was far enough away and they came out of that cave over there, and so you just shot 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they immediately respawned and came right out again. And so people would just stand there, just firing at this cave over and over and over and over and over
Bring
again.
back the loot cave.
And then when they would, that's not actually it, but it would look like that when, every there was a sort of an unspoken thing.
That was replacement loot cave.
Every 15 minutes or so, everyone would just be like, all right, we're going in now, and they'd all just run over, pick up all the engrams and ammo and everything, and then run back again.
And then they
So,
put in
so
the.
could
Then
you
they,
see them, or were you literally just firing into darkness?
No, they just kept walking out of the cave
Okay.
into your fire.
yeah. And then they put in
uh,
the world event to try and shake things up.
Then they did the enemies moving against one another.
Yeah, so that you couldn't do it
yeah.
continuously. It at least, and then they did patch it as well. But
And then eventually they patched it out and they left. They put a thing in. They put a pile of remains in the cave, and if you go up and interact with the pile of remains, then it would play this sound clip of
1,000 souls.
10,000 souls are not enough for Master Rahul. Who's the cryptarch who would decode your engrams. So, there's the loot cave.
Ah,
So
yeah.
you just sit there and
that was
Oh, nice.
sorry. I contest your Taken King moment. That is the best Destiny ever was.
Yeah.
I could sit there and click on heads and get loot, and it was loot pinata every evening for 2 hours, and then I went to bed. It was brilliant.
With your friends, too. Which
Yeah,
was great.
yeah.
I mean,
and
they-
just sitting there socially,
million
shooting
deaths, that
gallery.
was? Yeah, okay.
They actually gave them the Dr. Yui line
Which?
from Dune. 1,000,000 deaths are not enough for Yui.
Yes, that's what it was.
Oh.
Well, it's not enough for Master Rahul, yeah.
Huh.
The GIF was the room I was talking about. Something left of the opening, ceiling high enough. Oh, yeah, that was the other one. Is right at literally where you first spawn in the Cosmodrome social space. If you go downstairs in this room, there's skull level enemies. There's these 3 skull level hives that just destroy you. So you're just
cool
okay, I'm not going to go down there. But when you're high enough level to actually fight them, you could kill them and then back out of the room and boost jump up against the ceiling, and then you stay the ceiling, when you pressed against with your jetpack, boost jump against the ceiling was far enough away to respawn them, so you'd be like boom 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 and just do it over and over and over and over again.
Nice.
Funny, Corey didn't bring Destiny to talking when you guys were doing clicker games.
Yeah.
Burn.
Well, I mean, that was a really interesting thing. I didn't know what to expect of clicker games because I've never really done them. I had done a Dark Room, but I was actually really impressed with how tight the design has to be on those.
Yeah.
Because if the numbers are just off, they don't work, right? They have to be very, very, very carefully designed. And I started thinking about other games as idle games or clicker games. Things like Stellaris, right? Where you have to you've got several numbers that are ticking up monthly as you accumulate resources, and then you have to put the resources into buying more mining outposts or science outposts, and then you can upgrade those. And this is an interesting glove to use to manipulate this thing, right? Or this is an interesting handle
Yeah.
on this game.
As Mr. Flip pointed out, when you were doing that room with that you could jump into the ceiling to respawn, you could, when you did this as a group, you would have 2 people waiting up top,
Right.
and if you stood in a certain place, then they would get the credit for also killing them.
Oh.
So they would just wait up top, and then you'd cycle. So they would go downstairs and pick up your orbs and super, and you'd go back upstairs and wait, and then the third person would cycle out. But you made so many orbs that the instance would start slowing down, and things would start acting unusually.
Right.
And so, every so often to replenish the mobs, a ship would come in and drop a squad of 6 dudes. And so it got to the point where the ship would come in, drop 2 guys who they'd be standing like this, but they wouldn't have guns. So they'd be standing as if they're supposed to be holding guns.
Right.
But the guns wouldn't be there, so they couldn't shoot you.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
They just stand there I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, the drag with the line rifle fires when the drag without the line rifle.
Yeah, it was just weird that they got like it was supposed to be there, so they didn't know how to do it.
Right.
But they couldn't. They were just like, I'm not
This
really
is
sure
awkward.
what to do with my hands. Like they wouldn't run after you and try to punch you because they're like, I'm supposed to be shooting you,
Right.
and it's not working, and I'm not sure why. Very strange.
Hey,
Make
Graham.